Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Weedman 420 Chronicles, the Grow Hour. Big Earl, my brother, how the hell are you?
What's up? I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I get to get baked with you and Dave, who I just found out is an anime nerd like Mr. Weedman is. Dave, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, yo.
Oh, man, we're so excited. So we're going to get smoking on our smoke sesh here, and I'm smoking some Ursula Berry F3 Auto grown by Big Earl over there. Big Earl, tell him a little bit about it while I hit this bowl.
That's from Hummingbird, who we had on not super long ago. He made those super berry, super downy, get your eyes lowered, get you into the couch a little bit, you know, a little bit more traditional to the original couch commercials. But it was a badass auto flower, like fat flower, 75 days done, super, super nice. And it's in the BX that I made.
Yeah, because you gave me, that was the last nug of the F3 I had. And then I still got some of the BX too, which was fantastic, by the way. Big purple, the nurpley solid nugs. What are you smoking on, Earl?
I took down one of the Strawberry Haze F Gooey crosses. It's not going to be the keeper, but it's really nice. It was just too small. But it's really nice. This is actually the first time I smoked this pheno of it, so I'm enjoying it.
Dave, my friend, what are you smoking on?
I got a jar here also from Big Earl. It's a CWHXLL. I recently got it from him.
Yeah.
Tastes pretty nice.
That's the Lebanese landrace cross.
What is the...
Have you smoked that yet?
Huh?
Have you smoked that yet?
Last night. So, yeah, just
nice mellow high.
Yeah, it's got some good food.
I got a couple packs of that too. You threw me, right, Earl? I think I got a couple packs of that too. I think that was the next one I'm going to grow, right? The one I used, the Landrace strain. Is that the one I'm going to grow next? Yeah,
that's the only one that I've worked with. For the first generation from Landrace, it was I was really excited at the structure on it. I was like, oh, there's some flower on this. Nice.
Love it. Love it. How is it tasting, Dave?
It's got some fruity notes, but also some like subtle like hashy notes, more like old school Moroccan, not the super black hash. But I mean, it's smoking nice.
Nice. I'm looking forward to trying it.
Fuck yeah.
You ready to get the show on the road, guys? Let's get it going here.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, who the fuck is Dave? This is your first podcast, so I'm glad we're breaking you in. So, who the fuck are you?
I'm just a guy who likes to get high and is good at growing stuff. So I've been doing that for a while.
When did you start gardening? Like growing bud, man?
I grew my first Urban 94. I messed around with growing things before that, but that was like my first real thing that wasn't like a spider plant or some shit like that, you know. Throughout the 90s, I grew a decent amount, but not regular, you know, like in the last like 10 or 15 years, I've grown like rotationally, right? So you're pulling down every month, right? But in the 90s, I would grow like, you know, once or twice a year. And it was in like cute little thing in a garden or like in a closet or, you know, an old bathroom or some shit. Nothing crazy big. Mostly using like parking lot lights, to be honest.
I remember getting lights off of street lamps back in the day.
Yeah, same one, same thing. Yep.
That was the 90s for you. 3,000 watt bulbs, fucking burn your fucking house down if you screwed it up. And oh yeah, and those things weren't cheap either, man. If you bought them from somebody, they made you pay.
Not that I did this per se, but maybe I knew people who would just like go take them from Kroger parking lots. You know, unwire them while they were lit.
Thanks, Kroger. Oh yeah.
Getting gear back then was hard.
You got some miles on you.
I have grown some herbs, sir, and I've been around.
I love it. When did you stop? Did you stop all of a sudden? Did you stop in the 2000s? Did you grow all the way through the 90s and late 2000s and And what made you stop?
I quit growing last February, I think, was the last time I pulled. So it's a little over a year since I've grown any ganja in a garden. This was the first year I went through a winter in Michigan without grow lights. And seasonal affective disorder is a more real thing when you don't have little suns you can just go into whenever you want. I miss growing, but the numbers here don't really dictate setting up gardens like I had at this point in time.
So were you a Michigan caregiver,
Yeah,
or you
I'm a
just grew because you
caregiver.
had your? Okay,
And then a business partner and myself did a lot of extraction work for people for probably the last decade, you know. So we grew a lot, but we did a lot of hash work on the side also.
my kind of man. I love good hash. Now, do you
Right.
make it? Did you make it the new school way with the cold water hash and then taking it and then pressing it, or do you do it the old fashioned way?
Neither. We were doing like chemical extraction, a lot of BHO, a shit ton of BHO, and a whole
Gotcha,
bunch of different methods, you know,
gotcha.
like diamonds and slabs and whatever, applesauce, whatever was popular at the time. I mean, but that was very big for us for a really long time.
Okay. And what was your favorite that you made? What did you like making out of all of them?
Oh, to be honest with you, I'm like
Sauce. Did
a
you like
variety
making?
person. You know, I like the next one that's coming up. That's my favorite thing to smoke. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, we did a lot of like blasted a lot of stuff, and honestly, like yield was what made it for us. You know, so the Gorilla Glue 4, which is not my favorite plant in the world to grow or to process, but it produced really good hash. People bought it a lot. You know, we were like a numbers game back then. You know, we were just trying to like fill the needs of the masses, and they were large then.
Yeah, yeah. When was that? Was that before Michigan really like blew up with dispensaries and cultivation and stuff like that, or is it like
No, we were doing it
a couple
during
years
that. I
ago?
mean, like I said, I think we stopped making hash maybe 3 years ago, and so we made it for like 7 years, starting in like 2013, I guess. Um, we interviewed with a lot of different larger license holders to like work with them. Um, but to me, it seemed apparent that they wanted us to produce volume of work, right? And I don't mind working. I don't mind producing work, you know, or what people might call mids or whatever these days. But I also like to see top shelf. And it didn't seem like that was their interest. They were very much, the people we worked with at least, were very much about like maximizing their dollar, you know. And that didn't seem like a thing I wanted to go do for people. So we bowed out.
Yeah, especially in the way the cannabis industry is growing corporately. It's a numbers game, it's analytics, it's data, it's how can we get product out in a cheaper way so we can get our profits. And then if they're, especially if they're on the stock exchange or if they're publicly traded, they have to show good numbers,
Yeah.
or else people will not invest in their companies and they'll lose money.
Well, and I think analytics is
So that being
fine.
said,
You know, we have always used a lot of analytics in our production. I need numbers. I need to know like what my environmentals are. It's the way you get better, right? Is by analytics. But I think analytics paired with passion for quality is like what I value. And they were more analytics paired with, like you said, maximize profits, minimize costs. And a lot of the time, in what I have seen, the costs were minimized by taking out the like good grower with the passion. You know, once like the system was understood by whatever corporation we're talking about, um, that's often the way I've seen it go.
Right.
So, and I think that's a little sad, but it seems like things might be turning around a little bit that way. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
I think you'll always have, you talk about passion growers. I think you'll have that handful in each state that will be the passion, the smaller grows, the ones that I came from the craft beer industry for 12 years. So I saw the way the craft industry, which was around for a long time, it just didn't really start gaining a lot of traction here in the Midwest. Maybe Michigan's a little different because you got a brewery in every street corner. But the way it came from the West Coast to the Midwest to the East Coast, and how many breweries were back in, 2000. There might have been a handful. And then by the time I got into the game in 2010, but we worked at a craft beer bar, you saw craft started to make their way in 2006, 2007 here, more and more. And then by 2013 to 15 is when it just all of a sudden you went from having 2,500 craft breweries to 8,000 craft breweries. I think you're seeing that in the cannabis industry, not in every state, of course, because it's not legal, but you see in some states where it's oversaturation, too many cultivators, too much product, too much shit on the shelf, nothing moving, stuff getting stale and old, and nothing's coming out fresh. But I think you'll have the smaller family-owned businesses, the mom and pops, which I'm all about, that will care because that's their life. They don't. This is what they know. This is what they've done. This is who they've brought in, and you'll see that small little craft grower, that small little caregiver grow that will want to grow quality over quantity, and will dump a whole batch if it's shit because it's their name and their passion and their love for the plant that why they do that. So I think you'll see where the corporate growers will take over for a while. And then all of a sudden, the craft growers will come in underneath because people will start getting better educated and know where to go and will want to deal with smaller, reputable mom and pop shops. That's just my opinion. I've been talking about this for a hot minute now. You can ask Earl. So, Earl, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I remember what I was going to say, but so this episode is about cannabis and its adjacent industry, and we introduced Dave a little bit, but we maybe did him an injustice because, well, just a little bit how I know Dave is when I first started working at the grow shop. Dave was working there. It was the grow show here in Michigan. It's not here anymore, but and from Dave and a couple other people was really where I got I'd say the foundation of most of the stuff I know. That's who helped me set up my first garden, what I actually set up. Me and Dave, we probably worked 3 or 4 days a week together for a while. And that dwindled as things often do, and the good times in your life often do. Same with the bad, so never forget that. But and then you've done so much adjacent to it's like cannabis isn't really on its own, right? It has its own industry, but it's like an industry in every industry. There's nurses and nurses who smoke weed. There's, it's like a subcategory of every single industry. And you've been around them so much, including seeds. So anybody who's heard me talk about anything, Ice Queen Haze was one of yours. I don't think I do it justice when I talk about it. Do you remember the cross on it? You always talk about it being a dragon cross. And I'm always like, man, I think it was a purple. I think it was a blue and a red dragon. I think it was purple dragon. You remember the cross on that?
Yeah, it is a super lemon haze and a amnesia haze cross. The Ice Queen
amnesia haze cross.
Yeah, so that comes that's European.
So it was called Ice Queen Haze. Just so everybody knows out there, that was your genetics.
That was some
Philosopher Stone Seeds.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was Philosopher Stone Seed. Do you have seeds around anymore? Do you do anything with that?
I haven't done any work genetically in a while, so I do have some seeds. Yeah, I mean, I always have some seeds because cannabis is important to me.
Yeah.
Mostly as an adult, it helped me form into the person that I am. Cannabis was a driving pressure on my development. So yeah, I'll always have seeds, and I would like to breed again one day because I've never really accomplished my goals there. But at this point in time, I don't garden, so it's hard to do crosses when you don't have gardens. But I'm sure I'll grow again as well.
Hell yeah, dude, that'll be dope. I have your Targaryen haze too. I think
that's a dragon cross.
That's
what.
That's the dragon. Okay, man. I have it written on my drive now, so I can just go to it and be like, oh. when did you start? We've probably talked about this 10 times in the shop. The amount of times we were sitting there bored as hell. When did you start making seeds?
Oh, I mean, like accidentally in the 90s, you know, like
Yeah,
so I gardened a lot. I guess let's talk a little bit about like where I come from gardening. Um, I knew an old guy whose name was Kevin, and by being consistent with work, I earned a spot being able to go into his garden and like cut clones, right? I couldn't do anything cool, but like that was the first garden I ever went to. He grew on rock wool, and like back then, unless you like went to Amsterdam or something, I didn't know of a way to get seeds. You could buy them out of like the High Times magazine, but I never tried that. So I don't know if that
yeah,
works or not. So like
yeah.
literally we would like grow our own seeds, or you'd get bag seed from something from somewhere and it was better than most of the shit you got. So try that, you know. I
Yeah.
think I think it was like 2002 or 3 before I ever grew seeds that came from like a breeder, you know. And I'm pretty sure they came from like the greenhouse in Amsterdam, and that was once Attitude Seeds started online. So
Oh yeah. You remember the strains?
I mean, the first seeds I bought um, was a super lemon haze and a. It'll come back to me. I'm a little high right now, but super
Yeah.
lemon haze is one of the first things I grew, and I think I grew the longest probably. That strain has been in my life for many
Yeah.
years.
Oh yeah. How did you do like a lot of forums and stuff back then? Were you ever? Everybody. I was kind of towards the later years of that,
I mean, I read them,
like
but I didn't
2015,
participate.
16.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you were on them,
Read
just
and
trying to
got like
find like
yeah,
in the early 2000s and the 90s, weed growing information was like literally you got it out of your Cannabis Culture or your High Times magazine, or maybe somebody told you, but
yeah.
it wasn't like pervasive like it is now. It wasn't easy to like you could either fuck around and find out, or you know, maybe just be timid and not try new things.
That's the best part of gardening.
Yeah. And that's
I
what
think
they
that's
were.
what the grow show taught me the most. Yeah.
Well, I think
I
when you
think
look at it that way, there's like a lot of kinds of ways to grow, and they're all proper, you know. So you're just gonna find what fits with what.
yeah, exactly. If somebody's telling you you have to do something, it's just because they don't know another way to fucking do it.
Right.
With gardening, you know, and if they did, they'd you know not be saying that. But have have you seen people? One thing that's kind of crazy that I think, at least recently, there's been a ton of different ways people have been popping seeds. Have you changed how you pop seeds from back in the day to recently, or how do you like to pop your seeds?
I mean, a couple of ways have worked for me, and they're kind of like what I stick to. And when I was younger, I did seeds in like a paper towel, you know, and then like once they sprouted, put them into something. But really, kind of as soon as like Root Riots or Jiffy Pots or whatever came out, like those have always worked pretty well for me. Just like cocoa with pretty much just water on them, and then you can start feeding them basically
Yeah,
right away, you know. But to be honest with you, I kind of have like a green thumb, and very few cannabis seeds have been difficult for me. There's been a few things like that Griffin by Motor Rebel was just like an absolute turd to pop.
dude,
Like,
I didn't get any of those to pop.
oh man, I got like 3 of them to pop ever, but I probably tried like literally 100, and you had to like sand off the ridge, you know, and not over sand, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is
I sanded, I popped, I cut in with a scalpel. I washed, did like a bleach wash. I did a fulvic acid. I popped almost. I tried everything I could, and then I started talking to Rachel about embryo rescues.
yeah, which is cool, and it's
Maybe
cool
a
that she
little
does
before
that.
that.
Has she been on the show?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah.
Rachel's been on the show. Yeah, oh yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, she's good
Um,
people and she's very knowledgeable.
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous and pretty cool, and I'm excited to get into some of those. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're going to be.
Nice.
But so, what what else do we? What was first in the adjacent industry?
The first
Was
thing
it
I think we
glass?
did was glass, yeah, and that was at 42 degrees in Ann Arbor. And that was like in the era, it was before we had like medical herb in Michigan. So I think I started there in 2005 or six. And it was like very much like Michigan has really dumb laws. Like you can't say bong. We would have to like kick people out of the store for saying bong because it was like not cool to sell cannabis products at that time, you know. And that's literally all we did. So it was an interesting shop, and we saw a lot of different like stoner people come through there because everyone's buying a bowl, and Ann Arbor has hash bash, you know. So once a year, it's a rager. But you would also.
Did you ever go to Hash Bash, Mr. Weedman?
I have not been to Hash Bash, and Mrs. Weedman and I talk about going probably soon, maybe next year or the year after. We'll see. I would love to go out there and hang out and smoke some hash.
Fuck yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Dave.
Simple as that. Just go and party and smoke hash is a great day to me.
Heck yeah. And I mean, Ann Arbor's a nice town to walk around high in. You know, that's the truth. But yeah, we were talking about cannabis.
I've been to Ann Arbor a few times. I do like it there. It's really nice. It is nice, like you said, to walk around high. It is nice.
And it's a spot you can like really walk to most places from, you know, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like when we get back.
So you worked at a glass shop.
Yeah. Yep. And like that was a measure.
You worked at a glass shop?
Yes, sir. And that was a measure of like you would see enough like weed people who came through who were growers or dealers and stuff. So you do have like cannabis adjacent industry at that time. Cannabis in Michigan at that time was all black market, but like it was very successful for people, it seems. You know, I think for a long time, caregiving was also very successful for a lot of people. And I think, as you've pointed out in the past, like there was a direct impact on other industry around that based off what people enjoyed who participated in cannabis, you know, because those people had extra influx of dollars that they were able to like work for themselves with, not have to have the lion's share go to a boss or whatever, you know. And glass was definitely one of those.
Or the tax man.
Or the tax man. You know, the tax man is unavoidable. So
he gets paid first.
Yeah, eventually they want their money.
Oh yeah, and he pays attention.
Yeah, it's true. What kind of people did you meet at the store? You said you met a lot of different kinds of stoners, burners, and potheads. What kind of people? What were some of the interesting stories you heard? Tell me a story. I like a good story.
I mean, we just had
you got to meet one character,
you know, who would come through. So like, I think our character was like new students coming into 42 Degrees the first time, because a lot of them came from out of state, you know, California, New York, New Jersey, and cannabis culture was very different there. And our like enforced vernacular here we had in Michigan was like a learning curve for a lot of people. So you'd get all these freshmen come into U of M and they'd be like, oh, I want to buy that bong, you know? And so you always just had to have this like, dude, I'm gonna have to kick you out because you need to learn how to talk here, you know? So one of those stupid days.
It's like that. It's like that in Indiana too. I went to Indiana one time. I walked into a smoke shop. It was a fucking head shop, but they call it a smoke shop. I walked in. I'm like, oh, dude, look at that bong. He's like, if you say that word again, I'm gonna kick you out. I'm like,
yeah.
But that's what it is. He goes, no, it's a smoking apparatus. I'm like,
Ours were.
What am I gonna say that for?
Yeah.
What were they called?
Water tubes. And I would like
water tubes.
We sold thick glass. Like we sold a lot of glass. I sold a lot of bongs. We sold a shit ton of bongs at that time. And people would come in and like one thing we sold was like a 9mm thick Illadelph piece of glass, you know, straight tubes, beakers. I'd let people fill them up, pull through them, you know, we'd throw them on the scale and take the weight versus the height and see which one had the most density of glass. You know, we had pretty informed glass purchasers at that store. People had a lot of like metrics that they cared about for determining what they wanted to buy. But also interestingly, that was like exactly the era where glass went from like an expensive bong then was like $1,000, and now like every dab rig is $1,000, right? I mean, like in the fancy ones.
Oh yeah, I've seen rigs $5, $8, $10, $12,000. I'm like, holy fuck! And they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. They're beautiful pieces, but man, imagine if you broke that shit. I'd be fucking pissed.
Cleaning most of those would be like,
oh fuck, you wouldn't
that's
even
like
use
a
them.
piece on your cabinet. Like,
yeah, that's the point too. They're so intricate and like hard to clean. Imagine if you clean that some of those delicate glass pieces and you fucking cleaned it out, and all of a sudden it broke in your hand and you spent $5,000 on that thing. I'd be pissed as fuck.
Yeah, and literally in this area,
how'd you guys clean pipes?
How? I mean, I salt and rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, what did you guys use though?
Oh, I sold orange canna there.
Pretty.
So.
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
And then like
what go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, like I was working there also while we were doing the like signatures for medical. So it was kind of cool because I talked to so many different people who participated in cannabis culture. I felt like I could help steer that. So literally sent hundreds and maybe thousands of people to like the first doctor in Michigan who was writing scripts, who was a dude named Dr. May. And I think that really helped push forward Ann Arbor a little bit. You know, like we had a lot of people who had cards pretty soon. And like when that change happened, there was a lot of like, I perceived them to be salty law enforcement officers out there, you know, who are like happy to catch you with some herb and then really bummed when they found out you had a card, you know.
Yeah. Nice.
What were when weed prices were up back then, or if they were up, did glass sell better, or did people just come in for cheaper stuff, or did people want more and more glass, or more bigger bongs, more expensive bongs, because weed was starting to be more, I guess, like looked at differently?
I mean, I think back then, like your average good zipper was $350, and your excellent super top shelf, almost unattainable weed was like $400, $450 an ounce, you know. So weed was expensive for sure then, and we had a lot of people who bought glass, and we probably sold like at this point that $5, you know, dry bowl the most. That was probably like our most profitable thing there. But we sold a lot of bongs. The markup wasn't as high because the price tag was higher. But there was a time where, you know, I wish I had a better memory for this stuff, but we had 3 walls lined with 3 or 4 shelves of bongs completely stacked, you know. So I don't know, maybe 1,000 bongs in there at a time. So we were selling a lot of glass, but I feel like the bongs went mostly to like the frat boys at that point in time, you know, or the serious weed people. You know, it wasn't like you'd come see a show in Ann Arbor and
you had to hide that shit.
Yeah, where most people would buy the dry pipe, you know, that you could ditch if you had to or whatever.
Yeah. I at one point had a 6-foot bong. If you want a quick story, I might have told you this one, Dave. And that thing, it was at a time and a place where, you know, you're not supposed to smoke and hiding, not getting that thing found when inspection comes. Oh, we gotta come do your water heater. Oh shit, where the fuck it goes in the water heater closet. Where am I gonna put this? It was I ended up giving it to our neighbors. Kind of forgot about it. A couple years later, I see one of them sees me at a bar, remembers me, and they're like, "Hey, I'm so and so." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And like, they obviously could tell I didn't know who they were. They're like, "You gave me that 6-foot bong." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, let's have a drink real quick.
Did they still have it?
I don't. You know what? I don't know. I should. I would think I would ask that question, and if I did, I don't remember the answer.
How long ago was this?
10 years ago, maybe.
So if somebody's listening out there that has Big Earl's 6-foot bong, he wants it back.
It's blue. Bottom.
He'll give you some good. He'll give you some of the good if you fucking give him his 6-foot bong back. That'd be historic. If
two people smoke 6-foot bong.
If somebody's listening out there that listens to the show that knows the guy that took Big Earl's and didn't take it, but hit it for him, bring back his bong. It'd be great
I
to
just
take a
gave
whip
it to
out
him.
of it.
I was moving out. And I was like, where am I fucking gonna put this thing? I don't want this. I don't want to carry this off of a moving truck into a new, wherever I'm going. Like I just gave it to him. I was like, hey, you guys smoke? They're like, yeah. Like I knew they smoked. I could smell it outside their door every day. Have it. And they're like, what? And I literally left. It was the last thing I took out of the house. And I almost forgot it.
Was it glass or plastic?
Plastic on metal is very good for us, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But
oh shit, that's
it was
a
monster.
graphics tube from back in the day. Was it graphics?
That's what I smoked out of, a graphics tube.
Yeah,
Dude, I don't even remember.
Big ones that you could get was graphics.
Yeah, mine was a fucking 4-footer. The only thing that sucks if you ever broke the fucking piece, man. You try to find a shop that carried them on a regular. It was tough because I knew one shop that always carried them, but sometimes it was hard to find.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to the 90s.
Last slide.
Yep.
The first head shop I went to.
Order shit.
Yeah, it was like the road show, and it was like an hour away. So if you broke something,
couldn't order shit online like you can now.
No.
Yeah, you could just fucking order. I mean, right now, if I break something, I'll have it to my house the next day. Fuck, I need something. I need a new fucking bong. If I don't feel like running to the glass shop or something, it's just crazy.
But so many here by 8 p.m.
There's so many glass shops now. So many, but here's the thing: there's still good, true head shops. Not as many. Yeah. There's still some really good ones out there. But there's so many vape shops that sell cheap glass and cheap product. So many. I mean, there's like one in every street corner now. Yeah. And they're not even making money off their glass and their fucking, that's just an ancillary product. They're making all their money on vapes, on fucking, nicotine vapes and shit. They're selling thousands at a time. But the stuff in there, it's just like, you walk in, you're just like overwhelmed. I'm like, how much fucking inventory you got in this fucking store? Are you even selling any of this? I mean, it's just like so much. So did you have a nice selection to where it wasn't overwhelming, like to where you walked in, you're like, oh, this is a nice shop?
No, it was completely overwhelming, but that's what we went for. We went for like dazzling you with choice, but we also had like a relationship with a lot of local blowers. So while we had a shit ton of glass, we had no Chinese glass, which is what you're describing for all these vapes.
Oh, nice.
Like
yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Literally everything was handcrafted.
And ours was very hard to.
Yeah. And the person who owned this store also owned a glass blowing studio. So you could come in and you could like have no money, but have talent as a glass blower, pay for your gas and your glass there by making work for him. Now, I don't know. I am not a glass blower and I don't know how affordable that relationship was, but I know it was accessible. So that gave us immense choice in what we could carry. There was another 42 degree.
But that's a different story, though.
That's a cool setup.
You had an abundance of stuff, but it was personable. It was handmade. It was made locally. Glass blowers. You had the owner of the shop that did. So different type of store.
Yep.
Kind of store. You'd have people that went in for an experience because they knew they can look at really dope ass glass. You had your standards probably, but then you had like the shit that people are like, wow, look at that. Holy fuck, look at that glass. Wow, that fucking piece is brilliant,
Yeah, I would say it was like a gallery that you could shop at. We had unaffordable stuff, but we had plenty of approachable stuff. But yeah, just due to the nature of the people who own the store, we had good relationships with even not local, but like national, like companies like Illadelph and stuff like that, Tommy Chong, things like that. So we had pretty exceptional choice as glass evolved. But that was also before Instagram, and I feel like Instagram changed the relationship that an artist and people who enjoy that artist can engage in, and it made them more approachable. So while I do think head shops are still a thing that can be, I think more they have to be galleries now to be a good head shop, in my opinion. And like a lot of art from these artists is not exclusively available at the store anymore, where when we ran the store, it was that way. So perhaps we had a leg up there just because there wasn't a way that you could contact, Dan P or Banjo or Cowboy or whoever was the glass blower,
Gotcha. And then Big Earl told me you worked at a dispensary.
Yeah, I ran a dispensary in
Before
Ann Arbor for a while, about a year and a half. And it was we had priced.
That's a totally different aspect.
Yeah.
It's a totally different aspect. Fucking go to work for a dispensary, traditional market in the '90s, fucking underground, having fun, like, and then you go to fucking a dispensary. Was that like shy? Like, how was it where you were street traditional market, and then all of a sudden having to learn laws? Before it was like not getting caught laws, and now you have to learn about state laws and regulations and packaging, and you do a deli style in Michigan, so all that kind of stuff. So how was it going from this to that?
Well, so it wasn't that. When I worked in a dispensary, we were like the fifth dispensary open in Michigan. So there wasn't like a way dispensaries were at that point in time. And we grew a lot of the herb ourselves at the dispensary that we sold there, but we also worked with a whole shit ton of different growers. And like, there was a lot of people who were, so this is like 2009, 2010 to 2011. And there were people who like really did not have their gardening skills dialed in, and they were pretty awful. But there was some people who were like on their game back then. And there was some like very top shelf coming out. And like you said, because of my relationship, so previous, I think in Michigan into 2008, the black market was very tight knit. You might never have like officially met somebody, but you would still know who they were because there just weren't that many people. And it wasn't super easy to get access to high amounts of cannabis back then. You had to know people, but because of that tight knit community, being one of the first dispensaries, that proved an asset, because all those people were still working and on the grind. So again, we had access to a lot of locally crafted, high quality product. Really the same idea as 42 Degrees, but totally different, like you said, package. So, and
this is when you can buy from caregivers back then, right?
Yes, definitely.
You didn't have to buy strictly from cultivators. So you had some people out back then probably that really knew what they were doing. Like you said, you had some people that weren't up to par, but you probably had some people that were dialed in with their caregiving grow, and it was probably some phenomenal weed back then.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of those people, of course, I would never want to incriminate anyone, but at least they had been doing their research for the years before. We had access to medicine here in Michigan. So they were warmed up and ready. It wasn't like they were trying to figure out how to run their things. It was like, I think in the era, you probably had a lot of like 6 and 12 light grows. It wasn't like people were bigger than they could be with one or two people, but people were really like humming with that setup also, producing some really top quality in a lot of cases. So, and we just, again, were lucky to know some of those people. So,
let me ask you a question. So what was pricing? I mean, I see price compression in Michigan as fuck. You can get an ounce for $75 now in Michigan. It's fucking probably even cheaper.
I saw a sign today for $2, $3 pre-rolls and $49 ounces.
So $50.
You were in
so what was the price?
Gotta be fire.
Yeah. So back then, what was the price of an ounce back then? Could you sell an ounce through a dispensary back then? Were they allowing you to sell ounces back then? I don't know.
We did, sir. I don't know the rules.
Okay.
But yeah, we had ounces. I think
what was an ounce going for back then compared to?
Yeah, I think at the time we were allowed to do 2.5 ounces was a personal limit, and we were like buying ounces for anywhere between $150 for some lower quality stuff to like $300 for some good cannabis, maybe $325 or $350 if it was like really fucking good. And we sold everything by the gram at that place, and we had grams starting at $8 and going up to like $20.
Oh, that's good.
But what
that's
we really,
pricing. You were fair. I like that.
I try to be, sir. But what we did really well with was foods. We had some really good bakers we worked with. So they were making like just things that you don't see now, like pineapple upside down cake. I made homemade caramel.
I missed that. I fucking missed that. I missed that of good homemade edibles. The only state I've seen that in personally is Oklahoma. It's a couple shops I went to that they have a kitchen where they're making shit right then and there, and you can get some fresh baked goods. Besides Mrs. Weedman's edibles.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, Mrs. Weedman makes some
Mrs.
good
Weedman
stuff.
throws some good shit. So,
Yeah.
but it's all fucking sugar and chocolates, and you don't even see chocolates that much anymore. It's just all sugar fucking stuff. I want to see some cakes. I want to see fresh stuff. I don't want to see stuff that's packaged. I want to go to a dispensary one day. Like I went to Oklahoma. I bring this up a lot. And it was a nurse practitioner working in the dispensary, and she had her own kitchen. Everything was all displayed out. You walk in, she's got a bag of cookies, man, fucking 25 milligrams each. I'm like, what, are you trying to kill somebody? But for me anyway, I like tenors. So I'm like, but this is dope because you can go in and pick what you want and say, oh, you got a fucking fresh piece of fucking tiramisu that's infused. Oh yeah, now we're talking my language. Or fresh pie. She had pies, she had cakes, she had cookies, she had fucking pastries. I mean, this nurse had it dialed in. I'll give them a fucking shout out. Med Farm in Oklahoma and Tulsa, they're the best out there. I love them. So, and that nurse practitioner was the shit. I want to see that. I'm tired of getting fucking packaged goods and you don't even know how long I know the dates are on there and shit, but you don't know how long I've been in there and shit. I want good stuff. I like a good gummy. Don't get me wrong. They're good. They're good. A gummy has its place. But on a fucking Saturday night when it's my cheat day, I don't want a fucking gummy. I don't want a piece of chocolate. I want fucking cake or pie or fucking something good. You know what I'm saying?
Different every fucking week.
Yeah. So I like that. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just got excited. No. See, I'm passionate, Dave. We talked about this
I just think that's like reaching back to that old school culture again. Like these people made that stuff because they used it and they cared about it. Yeah, they wanted to make money. Yes, making money was important to them, but it wasn't their only metrics they operated on. And like, we had like ice, so like that was huge for us having all those edibles. But then again, coming right from the glass world, I had relationships with glass blowers, so we had like dab rigs there before other people even knew how to put one together. So like in the era where like at least here in Michigan, people went from like dabbing on like an open chamber bong, right, with just a downstem, heating up a piece of glass and putting a dab on that hot glass. Then they like invented these little swings that went underneath a bell, and we were there during that mix working with local artists who were making glass and we were smoking and making hash. So, it was like a nice relationship. But that
fucking synergistic right there.
yeah. But I had bad partners there and I learned really good lessons. You can like have a very profitable and productive business, but if the partnerships that run that business have issues, then it doesn't matter how successful the business is because you're only as good as your partnership, really. So, that's what happened, why that dispensary does not exist any longer, because everyone else from that era does pretty well, it seems. They're still around and kicking with their heads above water at least. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's over 600 dispensaries in Michigan right now. I mean, that's a lot for the population, but you get an influx from Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois that come visit you on a regular. So I mean, but still a lot of dispensaries for the population, and you see some dying, some not. But I want to go back to something you said about people making money. Listen, we all need money. It's the way the world works. I wish we didn't, but it's the way the world works. If people make a good living at something and they like what they do and they're passionate, you don't have to love what you do, but if you like what you do and you're passionate about it and you're making a living and you're not robbing people and you're not fucking being greedy, but you're providing for yourself, your family, you want a good life. I say this all the time. People just want a good life. They want to be able to afford a home, put food on the table, go on vacations a couple of times a year, be able to afford cars, send their kids to fucking college. If you're making 150, 200 grand a year making edibles and you're happy with that, good for you. If you want to make more, great. If you don't, you're happy where you're at. If you want to make 80 grand a year, if you do it as a side hustle, some extra bucks, good for you. There's nothing wrong about making money. It's greed that makes fucking money terrible.
Yeah.
So I believe that everybody should be able to care give and be able to grow in a certain way, to be able to have some clients and be able to make some good money. I always say, you teach a single mom or a single dad how to grow, or a family that's out of work, you teach them how to care give, and they pick up 10, 15, 20, 30 clients and they're making 150 grand a year. God bless. Please. That's what this should be about. Not people trying to make billions of dollars when they didn't even give a fuck about the plant 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's worth billions of dollars to them. And to me, I like it because they're all getting shoved in their ass right now because all the money they invested, they're losing. So fuck you, because it's going to go back to the caregivers. It's going to go back to the people who would actually really care about the plant and care about people getting good, great medicine. Just me. So go ahead.
I
Sorry.
hope you're right. What we see here in these large grows is like multiple times remediated cannabis. And I feel like if you were passionate back in the day, there was no such thing as remediated cannabis, right? You grew the truth or you grew mids. That's and you know, I don't enjoy the
thing
quality
about
I see.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest thing with gardening with all that is like when you do it right, you don't get to the point where you get the problems that some of these places have is way deeper than being like, oh yeah, we have bugs. It's like, man, the whole system is off. And so without that passion, there was such a, we've probably said this 100 times, there's such a huge push with money. And it was like I personally think it was a, oh, the stoners can do it, we can do it. And you see some people killing it. And they're the ones that are like passionate, got in at the right time, were smart about it, and they're far and few in between, but they're in there. But for the most part, it's just these people that like throw money. They throw money at it and throw money at it and throw money at it, and they don't care about any of it. It's not the biggest part of all of it. I think is that they don't consume their own product.
Yes, and if you don't
Back
consume
then,
the product, how can you determine what steps you can cut out to save money and what steps you can't because they're important for your final product? You know, like if you don't use that, you can't have good linear thought on the flow and how to get there and where you can compress an event and save some money and where you have to spend, you know, like if you're really growing, anyone who's been growing for a while will tell you like canopy management is where you make your most money. You know, so if you're filling your canopy out and you're spending your time defoliating and you're making things look proper and right, you're going to do well. But if you don't know what growing is and you're just like, oh, you're spending a lot of time here and we don't think it's important, you could cut that step out, you know, to save labor money. And you just, I don't think that right now, what I see in modern cannabis, I don't think they have the right perception on their own products to be able to push forward with innovation. I think that comes from having a passion and a skill set. You have to be plugged in and aware of how you can like make money, but it's the passionate people who push forward the industry. You know, they're the ones who like, when you look at excellent breeders from back in the day, which is I know a thing you guys talk about all the time, like the ones who had the passion are ones that we still refer to. You know, the Hayes brothers back in the 70s are still mentioned, not because no one else could do what they did, because anyone else could, but because they had the passion to do it, you know? So,
yeah.
And I think that's where we're lacking.
I wasn't even just, yeah. Through all your guys' stories in the shop and just comparing it to some of the industry that's around today, it was just, and I'm not saying it's even worse. It was just different. You know, it was just, much more hidden, much more like it's so open right now. You don't. It's almost like it's a real market. I mean, it's a numbers game almost. You get in front of as many people as you can. You try to impress. Hey, look at what I got. And back then it was almost the opposite of that, where you're like, I don't want anybody to know who the fuck I am. Yeah, I have these close friends. I'll get them some seeds. Oh, maybe. And so I don't know. But so
you and Big Earl used to work at a grow shop together.
Yeah, did you go to that right after the dispensary?
No, I took a year and like thought about a bunch of shit, grow some weed, you know, and then started working with my business partner who I made hash with. And right at that same exact time, I got a job at the grow show. I needed the money, A, but also B, it was a good way to meet a bunch of growers who might be looking for the services that we were providing, you know. And the grow show was fascinating. It was a intriguing place, you know, like there was a while where you were there when we were super busy. Like we were doing millions of dollars a year in sales, crushing.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, dude, it was awesome. It was fun as fuck.
and you
Getting high
really,
all day, fucking hustling supplies.
yeah, you really got to look
Those
also
carts all day.
at who the industry was. And while you and I were at the grow show, I mixed this up a lot because I was there for 6 years, like 2013 to 2019. But in that 6 year window, probably saw the industry turn over like 3 times, at least 2 times. Like a bunch of people come in, buy grow gear, set up, run for a year or so, shut down. Another batch of them come in.
You guys buy used equipment?
Yeah, exactly.
You guys buy used equipment? Oh, we sure don't.
So many people
for you. We can get it working, but
so many people got into growing and found out it was actually work, and then they're like, all right, bringing this back, or they got tired of it after a couple of grows, or they really didn't know they didn't really want to learn how to do it properly. They thought it was going to be easy. Like people told me, you can grow, you're going to get something. It might not be much, but you're going to get something. Unless so, but people found out it was actually work. It does. I mean, I grow a couple plants at a time, and it's still work. You still got to take care of your babies.
Well, and as we were talking about a little bit before the show, cannabis is a multi-skill set organism. Like you can be excellent at growing weed, but if you're miserable at selling weed, like it still could be an unsuccessful venture for you. So, and I think especially
miserable at a million things, it could be bad.
Yeah. And the further that we have come here in this culture, the more skill sets you need to navigate the landscape to be successful,
Well, to me, I think maybe you think different. At the shop, at least, there were like two determining moments, and it was pre-Hawthorne and post-Hawthorne. And maybe just to make me feel good, because we talk so much shit, will you tell everybody kind of what you saw with that when you saw, Monsanto and Hawthorne coming in and buying some of these nutrient lines and which was the thing that always troubled me the most, but like the industry, because you were there, that was towards your last year there, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that was like our first look at big cannabis taking over, big corporations taking over cannabis. Previous to that, yeah, like General Hydroponics, they've been around since the 70s, right? They're a big company, or were perceived to be a big company, but they were like not that big of a company when you're talking about like conglomerate multi-state entities, right? And you had Scott's Miracle Grow and Monsanto, or the Hawthorne Group, as they created as an arm of Scott's Miracle Grow. And they came in and like you really saw a dedicated, focused corporate interest in taking over all distribution methodology. And they didn't care how they had to get it. They didn't care what your product line was. They cared what your distribution access was. And they just bought everyone. And like as soon as it happened,
did that first.
Yeah, it just happened. It like there wasn't a problem until it was all them, like
oh, whoa. Another new sales rep. Dog, it was crazy. It was like it went from being like the coolest culture and the coolest industry that I had ever been a part of, at least, to being like everything else.
Yeah,
for me.
Yes,
I left in 2021, I think, early 2021, so a little after you, and it was like almost complete. It was like, you were either with them or you weren't with them at that point, and it was just,
well,
maybe
and that's
it's not
what
like
they
that
wanted.
anymore. But
they wanted to have everyone who grew cannabis had to give them money at some point in time for something that you needed, regardless of what it was. I mean, and that happened, I think, before you saw this super corporate crunch on the dispensaries. Like I think that was first.
Yeah.
And at the time, you had different flavors of dispensaries, and it wasn't like you had Sky Mint, with 67 locations in Michigan or whatever. So you had a lot of shops, but they were all still like ran by people, But as soon as that happened,
Gray areas a
I
little
feel
bit.
like that really went through all of cannabis. Now you go into like multiple different dispensaries and you're going to see the same packaged, you know, gummies or tinctures or whatever, you know, in all of these locations. So even though there's like different shops, there's a perception of choice, but there's not really the choice that you feel that there is, you know. But I do think that happened, like you said.
Even in description. But even in description, they give a perception of choice, like sativa indica. You know, with you know, oh, this is 30% THC. It's like that's like a perception of a choice. You can make your choice, but it's not based off of like, you know, a lot of that's based off of either completely false or at least skewed, you know, information to the consumer at a bare minimum.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and then like back in the day, again, we keep talking about this, but your weed was chosen by somebody who smoked weed, right? Not by a laboratory analysis. And I'm not discrediting laboratory analysis because I think it's a very cool tool that can provide us with more analytical looks at a plant we all enjoy. But I still think like smoking the cannabis makes more sense than like being like, oh, well, this burns really good. It's the best herb I've smoked this year, but I'm going to go with this lab report and pick up this old dusty bag here that's 32%. You know, I feel like that part's missing.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree with that. And then so you said you left the shop in 2019. What did you end up doing after that?
We opened up a Tree Town Treasure, so gem cutting and then like a bunch of minerals to begin with. Yes, thank you, sir. We also did like leather work and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I have a rock in all my planters from your shop. Not my garden, but like my house plants.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So what brought you into cutting rocks? Like, how'd you get into that?
So my whole adult life, I've participated in cannabis, and I enjoy working for myself, even if I'm a hard taskmaster. You know, like I'm making money for myself with my own labor and not for someone else. And I could see the writing on the wall in cannabis. At that point in time, my business partner and I were producing hash for a bunch of people and running like 5-10 light gardens, you know, nothing outrageous, but we were pulling down like every 3 weeks. So I was used to a certain standard of living. And I knew that cannabis was not going to continue to provide it for me forever. So I enjoyed geometry, and I think nature.
And that's unfortunate. Real quick. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is, but it was
because you have a passion for the plant. I get it, but for somebody who who's been doing what he's been doing since the 90s and had a passion for it that can't do what he's passionate about is sad to me. I don't know. Sorry, but I just think that's,
You're right. It is sad. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but it made sense. But anyway, I bought the equipment to cut gems because I like geometry, I like nature, and I like a challenge. In a lot of ways, I mean, they're completely different, but the problem-solving aspects of gardening and gem cutting lend well to each other. You know, like in my life as a weed gardener, if you had an electrical problem, you became an electrician. You know, later in my life, we had YouTube, but earlier in my life, you bought a book and you started reading until you could figure that problem out because you can't get an electrician to come out to your garden, you know? So,
right.
And that same shit holds true with gem cutting. You have a problem and you just got to figure out how to fix it, you know? Like, what are your options? So, in that aspect, I find them similar and I enjoy that part of life. So,
yeah, it was fun working with you during that because you were like learning it, like you said, and you'd come in and you'd be like, yeah, I got the wrong disc. And it would just end up being like some super expensive part. And you'd be like, yeah, I got the fucking wrong one. You'd be like, I gotta buy this other one that's actually more expensive now. And be like, oh fuck. You'd be like, yeah, it's just what you do. It was super fun. And like all the designs you had and all the rocks that you cut for me and stuff, it was a lot of fun. It was cool.
Yeah.
What kind of gems are they?
So I cut primarily sapphires for a lot of people. I do a lot of bridal, but I cut really any gem except for diamond. And I will bitch about some of the other ones that aren't diamond. I complain about cutting quartz and cutting opal, but I can be coerced with finances to do a lot of things I don't enjoy.
So you got tree town stone TTT tree town treasures, right? Yep. You got Gem Magic. Are they the same company? Like intertwined?
Like Gem Magic is just what I cut under. It's a handle I had on Instagram, so it's like my cutting name, I guess. But yeah, they are intertwined companies. So we made it through COVID by cutting gemstones and doing a bunch of other random, ridiculous shit. But yeah,
you have art all over the wall. It's dope. It's a super cool store.
Yeah, being able
Where's the shop at?
In Ann Arbor on the north side.
Give us an address so anybody in Ann Arbor comes
to go check, go see Dave. Plymouth Road. So,
fuck yeah.
And then cool. I heard Rachel from Deep Roots works out of your shop behind you, right?
She runs the back of the shop. Yep, that was another product of COVID. And
sweet.
Again, Rachel's super knowledgeable, and it as you said earlier, it's sad to not really be growing at this point in time. But I still participate in cannabis culture. Rachel's pushing scientifically way past what I thought would be seen in my life on cannabis, and she's routinely doing cool analysis for hop latent viroids. And Earl came in a couple weeks ago and they were doing some kind of like synthetic seeds or just some pretty cool stuff.
All kinds of dope shit.
Yeah,
all the embryo rescue shit recently.
Yeah,
we had her on the show to talk about the hop latent viroid, and then she talked a little bit about the culture, doing culture work too. So she was awesome. I can't wait we're gonna have her back on again in a few to talk some other things too. So she was awesome. So I'm glad you guys have a synergistic partnership, which is awesome. So and it all came through cannabis too, because she was a caregiver for a while too, and it's amazing how the whole industry kind of takes care of one another if you know each other the right way.
Yeah, and again, I've probably known her for 20 years, and we interacted with cannabis back in the day, So like, it is when I was young, like I thought there was like growing and selling weed, right? Now, there is still that. I'm not a big fan of the dispensary model of distribution here in Michigan, but there's also cool science that's emerging for cannabis that was never something that I would have conceptualized as a possibility. So on that front, I think the cannabis culture is like expanding in new and very awesome ways that I never conceived of. So, and like Rachel does a lot of that stuff there. So it's pretty cool to see and be able to be right there when she's doing it,
Yeah.
Give me something young Dave would have taught old Dave like me, us old guys, back then to today. Something you should have maybe listened to young Dave today. I'm throwing a shot at you just because it's just time. We're older, so kind of a little wisdom out there. What would old Dave tell young Dave?
I'll tell you exactly what old Dave would tell young Dave, and it's paying for strippers is fine, but save some money. This shit ain't gonna be here forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But young Dave would not.
Oh, that's fun. I love it. So all you youngins out there, remember that. The old guys, build little houses instead of thinking you're gonna get laid by a stripper and throwing her $100. There's the lesson for you.
Look, have a good time, but put 10% aside. You're gonna be old one day.
There you go. Yeah. So now the creme de la creme.
Work as well.
When I found this out from Earl yesterday, you're in the kung fu. Like you're like literally like kung fu, like in it. Like been doing it for how long? Tell us a little bit about that, because I'm intrigued. I love martial arts. Since I was a kid, I wanted to do martial arts, and my dad said, "No, you're playing baseball." I'm like, "I don't want to play sports. I want to do martial arts." He goes, "Nope, you're playing baseball. You're playing football." All I ever cared about was martial arts. all I ever cared about was, I mean, I read every magazine you possibly could back in the 70s and 80s about martial arts, everything. And I thought I could learn from that. Absolutely not. Because my dad didn't want to send me, he wanted me to play sports. But I'm so intrigued. So tell me about it.
Yeah, man, I do Kung Fu. I've been doing it for a little over 20 years. I help teach a class on Thursdays and then still learn from my Kung Fu master on Saturdays. I think moving is clutch. I don't think it matters what kind of movement you do, but like for me, I'm less mentally well if I don't maintain movement. So it's helps me like have a good baseline, helps me like put some shit to the side that I don't need to be like obsessing on right now, you know, like and Kung Fu is the style of movement that I enjoy. It's what makes sense to me and it's what works for me, you know. But yeah, I think movement in general is like a tonic, you know. It's like kind of like smoking herb, right? It's a way I can like de-stress and take my mind off like some of the events of the day, you know. You exhaust yourself a little bit and my mind is tired now and can't continue to worry. So, and growing up in cannabis, there was plenty of things to worry and obsess about, you know.
Especially back in the day when you were doing traditional market, there's always something to worry about back then.
That's right.
You know, I've been wanting to do Tai Chi. My mom did Tai Chi back in the 70s. She was instructed, and I've always was fascinated by that. There's nobody around by me that teaches Tai Chi. I would have to find somebody one day, but that's like a goal of mine to learn Tai Chi. Like ultimately want to do that. I think I'm a little too I still work out still, but I don't know if I can start from the beginning. But I think Tai Chi, kind of like yoga, I do some yoga here and there, kind of like that Zen where it's just slow movements. And it's nice flow.
And
breathing.
Yeah, go do Tai Chi.
Yes, and Tai Chi has a Taoist origin, so it's like also more gentle to learn. Like the Buddhist ideology is like you're trying to attain perfection. And the Taoists see it as like you probably will never attain perfection. So you're trying to get
way.
Better,
it's just
it's
the way.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It's just the way. Just go the way it takes you. You're going to go that way. I love it. That's why I studied Taoism. I've always loved it, man. It's just different, slow. It's taking care of the body. For me, it was easy to read and learn and study it as best as I could by myself. But I love the slow pace, the nice, gentle flow of life, and taking herb and all your medicine. You could be healed through the earth. And not, I don't practice Western medicine. I try not to as much as I can, unless if I lose an arm and I need to get it stitched back on or something. That's a different story. But I still believe in that traditional Eastern medicine. There's always something that can heal you first before I have to go put a pill in my body, you know, kind of thing. So
I agree. And like the Taoists in their martial systems always have your health as a priority of theirs. So all of their movement systems, Tai Chi and Xingyi and Bagua. Xingyi has other origins, but some of it's Taoist. But they care about the health of the practitioner. So it's not just about the achievement of violence, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's cooler now that I'm older also.
Yeah, absolutely. As you get older, you get a little wiser. Like you would have told young Dave to save your money. You know, as we get older, hitting that like late 40s, early 50s, you see we're on the caboose side of the train now. You know, I was always running and gunning, everything always intense and fast and gotta go, fuck it now, rah, rah, rah. Man, I hit my late 40s, early 50s, and then things have changed. Like, I just want to move slowly because time goes by so quick. My wife and I say, Mrs. Weedman and I say it all the time. It's like, Friday's your day. Friday's your, start of your weekend. All of a sudden it's fucking Sunday, 9:00. You're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just, time flies. It just goes, and everything. The only thing that's truly relevant in life is time. That's it. It's all you got. Once it's over, it's over. You look back, you're like, holy fuck, what the fuck happened?
Yeah,
I'm 50.
But on that, I think health can stretch your time out. You know, so 100%. Yes, you're right. Time is what you got.
Yeah,
doesn't matter how rich you are if you're dead.
Time and your word. It's all you got. Everything else is fucking doesn't really matter. So just remember that, everybody. Dave, throw yourself some plugs. Tell everybody where they can find you. let us know, and if you got anything else to say before we go.
I'm Gem Magic on Instagram. Also, Tree Town Treasures on Instagram. Our hours and address are on our bio there. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. It was really fun. Nice chat. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you. We appreciate it. And don't forget, if you ever get back into growing again, Philosopher Seed Stone, right? Is that what I got it right? Philosopher Stone Seeds. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you ever get back into breeding, remember we look for Dave, Philosopher Stone Seed, and check him out because he is the inventor of what again? What is the strain you created?
The Ice Queen Haze.
A bunch, but the one that I have is Ice Queen Haze that I worked with.
Yeah.
Ice Queen Haze, everybody. So remember, we have an original grown, ocean grown here that grew something that's memorable too. So remember that. So Big Earl, this is another great show, brother. Baked this over with you. I love it. Getting baked on a Monday with my friend Big Earl, and I got to meet a new friend. Pleasure, man, and an anime fan. I love it. I love it, Dave. We're gonna have to keep in touch. We're gonna have to talk anime. I'll have to hear a little about One Piece because I haven't watched it yet. I will. But we'll have to talk more. But everybody out there in the world, we love you. Big Earl, you got anything else, brother?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to Dave just for forever since I moved up here. Really been answering my questions, and you still answer my fucking random ass crazy questions accurately as fuck. So I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on. And I think Dave would also attest to this. Don't forget your CalMag, everybody. When they're yellow, brown, whatever it is, CalMag.
Yeah, everybody, don't forget your CalMag, baby. CalMag for life. Peace.
Have a good night.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.